Hi everyone, my name is Jillian Mather-Pinsky, and for my capstone project I researched the complex relationship between moose, winter ticks, climate change, and the importance of influential communication to stakeholders. For my partnership, I partnered with New Hampshire Fish and Game. In particular, I was working with Henry Jones, who is the head moose biologist for the state. And I had originally wanted to do hands-on data collection for winter ticks and moose, but due to time and funding restraints, we opted to go a different direction. So instead, Henry and I decided that we wanted to engage the public and learn more about their values and beliefs concerning moose, in particular moose management in our region. So moose are present throughout most of New England, but this research is focused on the states of Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire, as these are the states that are seeing the most detrimental effects due to the winter ticks and moose relationship. So for the project overview, my first goal was to analyze past and present data that was given to me by Henry Jones and other outside sources so I could understand the current status of the moose and tick relationship. And then the second goal was to understand why climate change was affecting this relationship. And then the third was my part of the project, where I was collecting information through surveys on the beliefs and knowledges of moose issues from residents of northern New England. So just from residents of New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. So a little bit about winter ticks. They're heavily affecting northeastern moose populations. They differ from the more commonly known deer and dog ticks, as they tend to hunt in packs and are most active during the winter. These ticks can easily overwhelm moose when they go to graze. Several hundreds can overwhelm a moose in a single grazing period, and they tend to be most detrimental to calves and pregnant cows. So there are a couple of methods of data collections that wildlife managers are currently using to track this relationship. The first is the GPS radio collar tracking, and then the second is the snow urine analysis. For the GPS radio collar, moose are typically spotted through aerial capture techniques and then immobilized, collared, and then released. And these are utilized to help trigger moose mortalities. So if the collar hasn't been motion triggered in 6 hours, the moose is declared deceased, and then wildlife managers will go to that spot that moose was last tracked and then can analyze the cause of death, which is typically due to winter ticks. The second method is the snow urine analysis, which can obviously only be utilized during the winter months. So after a moose is GPS collared, researchers can find the bedding and travel route of the moose and collect snow urine samples. And these samples can give wildlife managers some insight into the stress levels of moose and their nutrient levels, which can sometimes be indicative of the presence of winter ticks. So for my portion of the project, I conducted surveys to 62 people that are residents of the 3 northern New England states. And this was to just help gauge beliefs surrounding moose management. This is important to wildlife management strategies because without educating the public, some techniques can be seen as controversial. So this was to just gauge the knowledge of people in this area, as well as their beliefs surrounding how moose should be managed, especially with this issue. So for the first survey question, I asked, do you believe northern New England moose populations are in decline? 48 people said yes, while only 14 people said no. We had the second survey question that was only asked to the previous 48, and that was, what is the largest issue northern New England moose are currently facing? 25 people said disease and parasite, which tick falls under that. So 25 people pretty much were spot on. 9 people said vehicle collisions, which in the past had been a pretty prevalent issue in the early 2000s, when our moose populations were pretty high here. We were seeing a lot more vehicle collisions. Only 2 people thought overhunting was the cause of our moose population declining, and then 12 people thought it was human development. And then the third survey question was, how important is the survival of the eastern moose in northern New Hampshire to you? And obviously we can see here that 36 people thought it was fairly important, and 14 people thought it was very important. So the majority of people really care about moose populations here, and how moose are important to both our cultural and ecosystem up here. So what do these results mean? These results help us to understand how people feel about moose in this area, and that gives wildlife managers a better understanding of what needs to happen when taking management plans into account. So as of right now, there is no solution for the moose and winter tick epidemic. However, Maine moose biologist Lee Cantor has proposed a culling of their moose population. So culling is a wildlife management technique that refers to the selective killing of a wildlife animal in hopes of creating a healthier population. Especially with a management tactic such as culling, which is highly controversial, education to members of the public and stakeholders is extremely important to get everybody on the same board. Not everyone may agree with this management strategy, but it's important to know why managers are considering this implementation. So the thought behind culling the moose is that while the population of moose would decline in the first couple of years, so would the winter tick populations with a lack of food source. And then it's hopeful that the moose population will then rebound, and cows and calves will be born healthier to promote new generations. So as of now, there's no great solution for this issue, but it was definitely interesting to gauge the knowledge that people have surrounding this issue and what they would like to happen in the future for our moose populations. And then for the communication plan, I chose to use a blend of infographics and social media. So I did 5 infographics. The first infographic was just basic information about the eastern moose species, and the second and third infographics showcase results from the surveys that I had taken through residents throughout the 3 New England states. And then the fourth and the fifth infographics were information regarding winter ticks and moose. And then the final one was where do we go from here? So I touched on some management plans that may be utilized in the future. So to present this information, I created an Instagram account at New England Moose. I had a target of engaging with 100 people, but unfortunately I fell short. I thought Instagram would be the most effective way to share my infographics, but I was unable to connect with as many people as I would like to. So I only had about 27 views on each of my posts and 8 followers. So in the future, maybe I will stick with one communication plan. Maybe it would have worked better if I had only done social media campaigns and created a Twitter and a Facebook page. But I really like the way that infographics can present a lot of presentation in a simple form, so it's easier for everyone to understand. But going forward, I will definitely probably try a new technique. The rest is just references, but I thank you all for watching, and I wish you all the best of luck in the future.